how I became a material artist in 1 year. There's something I always kind of like say to everyone, and is that I am not an artist that went to a specific school. I am self-taught artist. I become a material artist by my own means on my home, just watching videos and practicing and acquiring different skills throughout communities. So I wanted to show you how you can go from basically knowing nothing about game art to actually becoming a professional, getting your first job in the industry as being a material artist. And of course, after this, we are also going to take and get a dive into substance designer into some of the materials. So I'm 25 years old, almost. In next month, I'm going to be 25. So I started in 2018 looking for a career. I already knew I wanted to work on games, yes. And one of the first things I did was I applied for, it was computer graphics in my country. That's the only thing I knew that could take me near or close to games. And I failed like really hard. I failed really bad. I was always good at math, but I wasn't really good at practicing math. I don't like practicing math, to be honest. It doesn't feel practical for me in some ways. So I had that problem and I started looking for careers. So from computer science, I went to marine biology. From marine biology, I then finally jumped into graphic design in 2019. But that year, mostly what was going on in my life was that my parents weren't really happy with what I was doing, mainly because they are kind of like, they have a mindset of you need to have a degree in order to have a professional career. And I was skipping from, career to career, trying to find what I like. And they were kind of like pushing me to make it fast rather than finding something I really like. And when I got into graphic design, I kind of like find a way of connecting myself to something connecting to something creative where I could help people. Yes, for me, design is all about that. It's about helping people, yes, by becoming experts, yes, on a problem and providing a solution to that problem. Now, while I was doing my career in 2019 on graphic design, something happened to me, and it was that I started to realize that my passion was taking me more and further than the university could tell to take me. So, for example, first semester in my country, what we usually have we have the year divided in 4 months. Yes, every 4 months you have one subject or 5 subjects. Yes. And I was doing web development. By the second month of the first semester, what happened was that I delivered a project. It was not the final project, it was like midterm project. And my teacher started to ask me, hey, who helped you? Who did help you do this work? Because this is not possible for you to do it. I mean, it's your first year, he told me. And I was like, I did myself. I can explain you the code. I can explain you everything. And he was amazed when I explained it. And he asked me, well, how did you do it? I was like, okay, so what I did was every day after school, after university, I went back home. Yes, I sat down on my computer and I started looking for videos on YouTube of people coding and doing websites. And I did that, but I did at least like 4 to 5 hours a day, every single day. So by the end of that semester, I had already done a year and a half of knowledge, yes, acquired of university in only 4 months. Yes. And that was kind of like a big click for me because I started to realize that I could learn so much from places like YouTube, Discord, communities, and many other sources. So in between all of that, yes, I came across in 2020 with 3D art. Why? I first started with web development. From web development, I went to graphic design where I became brand designer. Yes, I was helping businesses and also other studios kind of generate their logo and have an idea of, well, what do you want to transmit to the people that are going to be your clients. And I kind of got bored about that. And when the pandemic hit, I decided to get into game art. I started with 3D and matte painting. And eventually a friend of mine told me, hey, you're doing really nice 3D models. Why don't you do textures with Painter? And I tried doing texture with Painters, but I didn't quite like it. And another friend that he was doing game art at a university here in my country, he came across and he told me, hey, if you want to do your own textures, you can use Substance Designer. I tried, I opened the software, and I was terrified because I couldn't understand anything. Like, I didn't know how it worked. Yes, I didn't know anything. So what I did was I took a small course from Domestika from another artist that you may know. His name is Angel Fernandez. He's also from my country. He's actually working at Infinity Ward, I think, in USA, mostly for Call of Duty and Activision. He's doing a lot of amazing materials using Substance Designer and photogrammetry skills. So during this year, during this specific year from 2020 to 2021, I went over a lot of tutorials, thousands of them. But during the first half of this year, something happened, yes, that I always seem to get stuck in one place. And of course, as I didn't have anyone to compare myself, and I always look at professionals as if they were gods for some reason, I never kind of like push myself more than the tutorial allowed me to. So I would, as it says here on screen, I would buy a tutorial, replicate it, and that's going to be my post. And the result was actually not much interaction from the community at ArtStation. Bear in mind, nowadays, ArtStation is full of people. Yes, back in the day, 2020, ArtStation was just recently starting to booming, and material art was also starting to be something at that moment. You know, you had really small amount of material artists. In between them, this was Enrico Tagmehag, Javier Perez, Daniel Tiger, and Stan Brown, and there were other artists that right now I don't remember really well. But this is the actual workflow I had, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I've seen a lot of students have the same workflow. Yes, and usually when they have this kind of workflow of trying to learn Substance Designer and making new materials, the result is always the same for everyone. Their artwork isn't at the level of quality they needed to be in order to acquire a first job, or at least to start to create a name for themselves in their professional outline. So this is a small story I wanted to include because it's really nice. About learning the truth and keep pushing, because I think that this is something that really makes the difference. So I have been 6 months working on Substance Designer, and I was working content on ArtStation Learning, and an artist was recommending a Discord community called Dynasty Empire. So I joined this community, and started making friends. And one day there was this guy, his name was Marshall. He was working in a Witcher sword, and I was watching his stream on how he was working it, and I was saying like, this is so good. I want to be this good. Like, this texture looks amazing. This prop looks amazing. And I asked him, hey man, where are you working on? And he told me, dude, I'm a student. I haven't even applied yet. I don't get a job that easy. At that moment, like, in my head something clicked, because I realized that, first of all, I was really, really far away of what he was achieving at that moment. Like, our skills and level and knowledge was way too far. And I thought he was a professional, and he was actually a student. So he wasn't even a junior at that moment. So he wasn't even a student at that moment. And yet he was able to produce certain level of detail in their textures that I wasn't able to. And in fact, he was no texture artist. He was a prop artist only. So it kind of like, in a way, helped me open my eyes. Yes. Why? Because at that moment, while I was doing tutorials, I thought that I was ready for a job. And I think this is the case for many people, where they think they're ready, or maybe they have uploaded 5, 10 artworks like I did at that time, and they think that they are ready for applying. But what they don't realize is, when you apply for a job, there's at least 2,000 to 3,000 people applying for the same job. Why do I say this? Because mostly people apply for AAA studios, let's say Ubisoft, EA, and so on. That's how let's say the dream studios. So if there's always an open vacancy, there's going to be someone applying for those. So at that moment, yes, there was a lot going on in the industry. Daniel Tiger, Javier Perez, and Enrico were like kind of like the big three at that time. Making really amazing materials. Mostly they were materials that some of them might not be for production, but yet they were so good. And something they have, the three of these people in common, is that they all were trying to help the community of material art by teaching. So Daniel Tiger had his tutorials, Javier Perez was launching tutorials on ArtStation, and Enrico as well. When I saw all of these, I said, okay, so I'm starting off a little bit behind. Yes, I live in a third world country. Yes, my country, Argentina, is not as developed. We don't have much knowledge in game art. In fact, there's only one studio here related to game art that is good. Yes, that is really, really good, and they work with many worldwide studios. And the rest of them, they're just small, really small studios that make games for cell phones or websites that they are only inside our country. They are not going outside. And the knowledge and skills that most of the artists in my country have are really not that high. So I felt like I was kind of getting behind, and I decided to like make something different where I wanted to impress as much people as I can. Yes. So for that, I decided that I was going to catch up with these free artists. I was going to make a material that was up to the quality of them. So I started a new routine. Yes, what I did was I watched a tutorial. In this case was Enrico Tomha's tutorial on ArtStation. It's one where he makes flesh, ice, and kind of concrete, and I replicated. Yes, so I finished the tutorial, and once I finished the tutorial, I started over, but I started doing my own changes. Yes, following my reference and also following what I like to do. Yes, I wasn't really stuck at, okay, I have this image. This image shows me that Flash has this particular thing. I said, no, let's just give your imagination a flow and try to make it as good as I can. There's difference that doesn't show here between this kind of workflow and the other one was that the previous workflow I have when learning Substance Designer took me, let's say, 1 month, making a tutorial, doing some adjustments, renders, and that's it. This material you see here, that is the first material I made after doing and replicating and doing again the tutorial from Enrico, took me, I think, 4 months to do. And something I haven't said yet, that is that during those 4 months, every day from Monday to Monday, I woke up at 8 a.m., started working at 8:30, and I didn't stop just practicing with Substance Designer until it was 9 p.m. After that, I just dropped everything and started playing some League of Legends to rest a little bit, sort of. But the thing is that this gave me like a huge result, like huge. Like I was getting maybe 5 people watching my artwork, and out of the blue, when I posted this, I got thousands of views on ArtStation. Yes, and ArtStation was my main, let's say, portfolio thing. I didn't have LinkedIn at the time, or at least I had a little bit, but not that much on it as well. Yes, but that's something like really important. It's not about the amount of views only, it's about the people who saw it and the people who commented on it and was congratulating. So between the people, yes, it was Enrico, Javier, Perez. Yes, so I realized that it's not about only the amount of you, but who are actually recognizing you for the work you have done. It's not the same if just one, let's say, random artist that you don't know and maybe he's a student comments you for your artwork, than if you have a professional artist that is actually leading the industry in some specific way or artistic way, commenting you. So what I did next was I approached Enrico. So Enrico was the one who made the tutorial at that time. When I finished and posted it, he wrote me on the comments congratulating me for my work, that it was really original compared to other people that just did the same he did. So I came across him on ArtStation DMs, and I asked him, hey, listen, this is my situation. I live in Argentina. I don't have a specific degree on anything. I want to become a professional. How can I do it? And he was completely honest about this. He told me that it's hard to become a material artist, yes, at that time. And that if I wanted to do, I needed to do the following things that they are on screen, of course. And these things, he told me, please do not take them, yes, as something like bad, or do not get offended by it, because believe me, it's going to help you a lot. So I did everything he asked me. I deleted all my portfolio except that last piece. Yes, I didn't post anything that wasn't at the same level of that last piece or higher. Yes, and I didn't stop doing it until I get my first job. Yes, and there's a reason for all of these 3 posts. So yes, so when you are building your portfolio as an artist, and this goes for any kind of profession or artistic profession, yes, material art, environment art, prop art, character art, you want to have, yes, your best pieces on ArtStation. Yes, something that happens a lot, if maybe you see professionals' portfolio and most of the times you see their best pieces, but you don't see their worst. They had bad pieces. I have bad pieces as well. Yes, I've been working 5 years, and sometimes it happens to me that I try making a material that I never did, and when it finishes, it's just horrible. Like, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, and that's the size you don't see. Why? Because in your portfolio, you shouldn't be like displaying that in a way. You want the people, yes, that are trying to hire you, to convince them that you are the best option in the market to hire for that specific position. So having only the pieces that are actually good and being able to say, okay, this piece of mine is good, I'm gonna leave my proud away, I'm gonna delete the rest of the pieces that I think that they're not up to the same level. It's really important because it's gonna allow you to grow. Yes, it's going to allow you to say, hey, I need to get better. So I started doing that and I started to make more and more artworks. And I started to repeat this. And while repeating this, I made a lot of artworks, yes, that I can later show you my portfolio. And a lot of really great things started to happen. First, I got, I think it was a commendation, 2 commendations, one in Experience Point community and also in Beyond Stand on my lava material. And finally, I made a ZBrush stone wall that got opposed on 80 levels as well. And all of this was starting to happen as long as I always keep the same kind of rules on how to make these materials. Finally, 2021 right, and I got my first job, yes, in the industry. It was an outsourcing studio called Global Gaming Studio. It's here in my country, Argentina, and they're usually outsourcing studio for AAA and indie game development. Yes, let's say Ubisoft, EA, and something like that. There's a website for that. I can send you the link later for that. Now, when I do these kind of talks, and I say when I do because for the last 6 to 8 months, I've been posting, content in social media in different areas, in LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. I tend to do this kind of posts, yes. And something I always do is I add a small phrase, yes, at the end to kind of like mark some things, which is this phrase: pain and mistakes don't teach you new things. It is what you choose to do after what makes you learn something new. So there are some specific points, yes, throughout all the things I've just said, and I know I'm maybe throwing a lot of information, but there were specific points in this small story of mine where I felt in a way hurt, yes, but I didn't let that, yes, or the failure I have done, I didn't let that kind of like become my story, but say, okay, I made a mistake. Now let's try to fix it. When you make that change is when you learn something. And I say this why? Because I've seen a lot of artists doing a lot of mistakes from making their materials, and they repeat the mistake and mistake and mistake. But as they're not changing what they're doing, the mistake keeps coming up. But when you change what you're doing, the mistakes fixes. So that's the main idea I want to give you with this small story.